It's bizarre and hard to prove. Yet details that were told to us in interviews conducted across the country were later verified by authorities, who say there are consistent telltale clues. And they provide a checklist of 6 satanic practices to look for. For example, being placed inside a coffin. It's an experience that many children are describing.
Well, the adults would dig up the caskets from the graveyards, and all the members, including the children, were made to lay in the remains of whatever was in the casket.
Get in a casket with a decomposed body.
Right, and then the casket was closed, and they would be lowered into the ground while they were in the casket.
The author of a popular book on Satanism, Dr. Lawrence Pastor.
Children are involved in graveyards, in crematoria, in funeral parlors, because one of the primary focuses of these people is death. Everything is attempted to be destroyed and killed. In that child and in society, everything with goodness. And death is a major preoccupation.
Another indicator, satanic paraphernalia. In every case, the children talk about precisely the same setting.
They described a satanic goat's head being on the wall over the table. They described a lot of candles. And they described people in black and white robes with hoods.
The hood, Mike, what's this for?
This is to create for whoever's practicing a magical atmosphere.
The colors mean anything?
Yeah, the red ones would be used for some types of sexual rituals, people who are doing sexual magic. This would be used for ordinary ceremonies and also for ceremonies where you'd be throwing a curse on somebody.
Another indicator, kidnapping. In almost every case, the children have talked about children who were snatched and later sacrificed.
They were taught to aid in the kidnapping of children. What they would do is the kids would go and play with the children and then tell them that they were either going to go to a party or that there was some toys or whatever, and get them so they weren't on the move, and then her father and other members would grab the kids.
Do you find missing children sometimes fall prey to these people?
I believe that they do. We can't prove that they do. But as a law enforcement officer, I question 2 million children missing in the United States, knowing that many of those are not runaways and are so young that they couldn't run away anyway.
Number 4, sexual abuse aimed at destroying faith in God. It's being described by numerous children.
What were the parallels with what the boys have told you and the worship of Satan?
Well, first of all, the sexual abuse, the pornography, which always seems to go hand in hand. The boys talked about how these people actually said, "I hate God," and they used a very deep voice when they talked about that.
One of their primary aims is to destroy the belief system within a child, to make a child turn against what they believe in terms of who they are, of who God is, and to desecrate all manner of flesh, all manner of church institution, all manner of sign and symbol that a child could in any way be attached to.
Cannibalism. It's difficult to believe, but in every case we examined, children described it.
The hearts were cut out, and the children were made to chew pieces of these children's hearts, pieces of their flesh.
Is cannibalism part of the ritual?
The children have spoken about this in almost every instance. Also, human feces, or drinking the urine, or drinking human blood.
That's part of the ritual.
Right.
I have an old 3-inch scar here on my wrist where my friends used to cut my arm open and bleed my blood into a cup and drink it mixed with wine and urine 4 times a year as a ceremony to Satan.
And finally, cremation. Most of the children describe witnessing it. It might explain why no bodies have been found. So far, police have failed to make the connection, as in the case of yet another youngster who, with his mother's consent, described how bodies were disposed of.
He would take the bodies and put a trash bag over the feet and head. He'd put it, and then what he would do is he had his car parked out back. So they took them to the funeral home, and they were cremated, and nobody ever knew anything about the bodies.
These people cover their tracks very well. When they dispose of a body, they use that body as well. They will use, as I said, they will cremate that body. They will use the ashes that will become part of what they will continue to present to that particular group, and they will disperse that. They're not going to do some simple murder and leave a body in a stream for you to pick up the pieces of.
6 clues that point to the illegal worship of Satan, each based on the testimony of children, and none of it has ever been proved.
The problem that exists is we're getting the stories, but we don't have the victims. Once it's proven with one case, it's going to add more credibility to each one of the other cases.
Until that one case is proved, the link between crime and satanic cults will remain speculative. The victims in this report did break the grip of Satanism, but each is left with permanent scars, and experts say they were lucky to escape.
When you get into one of these groups, there's only a couple ways you can get out. One is death. The other is mental institutions. Or the third, you can't get out.
That's terrifying, and that's no choice.
Serious business.
If the police were aware of this, it might be that they could get to the instigators, to the top people. Why isn't there more awareness on the part of the police?
Police are very reluctant to investigate these crimes as satanic crimes, Barbara, because communities quite naturally don't want their reputation stigmatized as being the home of the devil. They prefer to try to categorize them as drug-related crimes, sex-related crimes, or robbery or something that they're more familiar with.
Individual, rather than finding out who's behind it. Look, if this happens to your kid, or if you look at this and if you have children, you say, could this happen to my child out of some kind of rebellion? How would a parent be aware?
Many youngsters are into it, teenagers and younger, and the clues are there. The satanic symbol, 666, if you see that written on your child's notebook, if they're into heavy metal music, if they're associating with strange characters or drifting off to ceremonies and not explaining where they're at, it's well worth it for parents to look deeper and ask, what exactly are you up to?
And with whom?
Because this is serious.
It could be harmless. It could just be a diversion, but it could also be deadly serious.
Absolutely.